Good morning. Whoa, hello. Didn't they do a great job? You know, one of the first rules in public speaking, you don't follow animals and you don't follow children. Well, with Mr. Glick's bird and those kids, I'm 0 for 2. A couple quick introductions before I get started. I have 3 board members that are here today, and I'd like to recognize them. We'll start right to left. Miss Griffin, if you would stand up and wave at the crowd. Mr. Lambert. And Mr. Nag. And just so you know, they make me do that. Okay, so when you're new and you're coming into a district, one of the unique things about Garland is it seems like everybody here is related to everybody, or everybody knows everybody because they've been around forever, okay? So I'm going to do a little history of Bob, and actually when I was young it was Bobby and no laughing, okay? Middle name is Lee. Yeah, try that on for size all your life, Bobby Lee. And so you're gonna kind of see you're gonna hear some stories from about age 5 to age 20 or so with some pictures, and there's gonna be some pictures on the screen. I would prefer you not to laugh out loud, all right? But we'll see what happens. Okay, so we're starting off, and I'm 5 years old. Yeah, I know. Okay, so I'm 5 years old, and I'm sitting in church, and my brother, who's 3 years older than me, Billy, so it's Billy and Bobby. That right there ought to tell you my parents were very young when they had us. And my brother taught me how to make a paper airplane. So we're on about the 3rd row, and the preacher's right here, and he's just firing away, and I'm sitting there. And if those of you know, if you go to church much, you know that the consistency of the church bulletin is perfect for a paper airplane. So here I go. I'm sitting there at 5 just doing this, and my brother goes, "Do it. Do it." And I look at him, I go, "Really? Yeah, do it. It's okay, do it." So I'm warning you, I don't know where this is going, so be ready to duck. If there's any justice, it's going right over here, but we'll see what, I'm gonna throw this way. If it goes that way, hey, I can't help it. Okay, so I'm sitting there and I let it go. Boom. It was the best airplane I've ever done. It went straight up, did a loop, and hit the pulpit dead center, and the preacher stops what he's doing. You could hear 3 things in that church. 1, what you just heard was laughter. 2, the preacher commenting on what a wonderful aerial attack that was. And 3, my dad always sat behind me, and the thump on the back of my head. Oh, actually, there were 4 things, and me going, "Ow!" But I knew something. That wasn't it. So when I got home, I don't know, this is when spanking was okay. I know in today's environment we tell it's time out for kids, but back then, I'm 49 years old, folks. I'll be 50 this year. And back, when you're 5 years old, that many years ago, you got spankings. And we had a willow tree in the front yard, and we'd have to go tear off the little branch, take all the limbs off of it, worse than a belt. And I'm telling you, that went bam, bam, bam. All right, so I took my punishment. Later on that year, we're sitting there, and we're making homemade ice cream. And, okay? Now, this was before electricity. No, I'm just joking. But, it's before the electrical kind. So when you have 3 kids, you did this. Those of you that remember this, raise your hand. The rest of you, I don't like. And so we're sitting there and we're turning it, and of course the homemade ice cream is great, and when it's over, you have to get rid of what? The water and the salt and all that stuff. So me being the energetic 6-year-old that I am, "Hey, Dad, I'll do it. Be happy to." So I go to pour it right out into the grass, and all of a sudden you hear this, "No!" Because why? What happens to the salt if it hits the grass? It's gonna kill it. It kills things. Okay. Remember the willow tree. So, about 3 months later, my dad's off hunting or fishing, or he was always a hunter and a fisherman. I don't know what he was doing. My mom had 3 kids in 3 years, so she was taking a nap. I'm going through the garage, and I see this half bag of rock salt left, and I see the willow tree. And I think to myself, I wonder if it would kill the willow tree. So I dig a hole by the willow tree and I bury the rock salt. Dad comes home and I'm watering the tree. He says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, my grandfather worked for at the University of Oklahoma in the grounds department." And I said, "Well, Grandpa told me you always water trees. That's how they grow." And so I'm going to water this tree every other day all summer long. But I only really watered in one spot. I wanted to make sure that rock salt got completely dissolved. The tree survived the summer. It did not survive the winter and died over the winter fall, and it never came back. And my dad was out there cutting the tree down, okay, the next year. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't shed one tear. Now, looking back on it, I'm thinking, killing a tree, there had to be a better thing to do. But at that time, it is what it is. So I just want you to know, there are kids like me in our schools. Not every kid comes from a dysfunctional family. Not every kid comes to school hungry. Some of them have all their parents providing all the things for them, and they still act like I acted. So I want to tell you some more stories, and this is really centered around Christmas at our house. And I know every family has family traditions. Yeah, isn't that cute? That's middle school. I know, all you girls. Okay. So I'm sitting there, and the first couple years, very easy. The mom wraps the gifts. You get the razor blade out, you cut the tape. Everybody's done that. You look inside, see what you got, determine if you like it or not. Did that for a couple years. Mom never knew about it, and things go on. Well, then she finally finds out about it, so she's not going to wrap them quite so soon. So they're kind of getting into the game a little bit. So you realize if you have your parents' social security number and your mother's maiden name, and you deepen your voice a little bit when you call the credit card company and act like you're mad, and you act like you're Larry Morrison, my dad, they'll tell you everything she's purchased over the last 2 months. And so for a couple years, we found out everything that was purchased that way. Because if you know what store it came from, you can kind of figure out what you got. And see, my mom was one of those people that did Christmas in themes. So, you'd have different themes every year. So we're into high school. Yeah, look at the hair, 80s hair, you love it, don't you? And so, I'm into high school, my brother's in college, my sister's out living on her own, and the game has escalated a little bit. My mom wanted us to provide a family photo of the 3 kids because they realized that we're all going to be getting married and moving on and all that blah, blah, blah. So I'm over there snooping one day, and I find that she puts the clothes in the most obvious place. You cannot put them where the laundry is, inside another bag because we're going to find it. Okay, so she didn't even wrap them up. So you know what? The clothes weren't that bad. We had to go get our picture taken. So we put our Christmas clothes on, my brother, sister, and I, and we went and had our picture taken. So on Christmas morning, and my parents are sitting there going, "Okay, are you going to guess what you got?" And I'm going to go, "No. You fooled us this year. You got us. We don't know." All right? And they're like, and my parents were 15 and 17 when they got married, had 3 kids in 3 years. So when I say I'm 18 years old, my parents were very young. So, they're missing high fives. It was really embarrassing. All right? And so I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden my mom opens up the gift, and then there's the photo. We're wearing our Christmas clothes in the photo. So now my parents are fully invested in trying to stop us from finding out Christmas. Before, it was a little bit of a game, more on our side, but now this time, they're in it. They're in to win. The next year, no credit cards, paid in cash. Don't even deliver the presents to the house already wrapped until Christmas Eve. All right? We, the 3 kids, had to sit in the living room while the presents were unloaded out of the truck into the garage, which my dad put a tarp on. He took up all of our house keys because we go to my grandmother's every Christmas Eve. And now the rule is, because they don't want to stay up all night because they know at 3 o'clock in the morning we would just get up and go look. So the rule this year is by midnight, you not only had to say what it was, you had to be specific. You couldn't just guess. Okay? So guessing was out. So you had to be specific. So on our way out the door, we had double doors at our house, and my dad chained the front doors. Went to the back door, locked it, put a chair underneath it, because he's afraid that somebody might, on our behalf, come into the house and go into the garage and look at the gifts. My dad was not a stupid man. What he forgot to check was the bathroom window. So we're sitting there at my grandmother's house, and it's 10, 10:30, 11. My dad and all the relatives are playing dominoes, moon, all that stuff. So, y'all gonna guess? No, I think you got us this year. Yeah, we don't have a clue, just don't know whatsoever. Y'all are so good, me in my sincere voice. And then all of a sudden about 11:45, the phone rings. I'll get it. Brian Davis, a friend of mine, had broke into the house, went into the garage, and all 3 boxes were the same, so you only had to open up one of them. Now remember, we had to be specific. We had to tell by midnight. So we got this gift for Christmas that year. Well, this was a big deal back then. This is when TVs didn't have flat screens. This was a 19-inch RCA color TV. Everybody's moving out on their own, got your own color TV. I was the first remote in my family. So now these all have remotes. So we're sitting there, and my dad's sitting around the table. He goes, well, who was that? And I said, it was nobody. And I looked at him, I said, hey, I want you to know something. He goes, what's that? I said, I appreciate the 19-inch RCA color TV with remote control. So the next year, my parents are more than determined. Now, by now, my brother, who has graduated from Oklahoma Baptist University, he's actually in Fort Worth at seminary. My sister is married, and I'm really the only one left to carry on the tradition. So we're winding this up. 7, 8 years, we have one every year. And I'll be honest with you folks, this final year, my parents had us. I had no clue. They not only paid in cash, they didn't go pick up the gifts until Christmas morning from a friend's house. They were wrapped inside 5 different boxes, had weights in the boxes, so that if you shook the box, you had no idea what was in there because it would like move around. It was weighted out and everything. And we're sitting there, and now remember, you had to be specific. You couldn't just guess. So in true fashion, here they are. I'm about 20 years old, and that actually, if I'm 20, that puts my mom right at about 40. Okay, my dad's about 41 at the time. And literally, they're just like celebrating all over the house. We finally did it, da-da-da-da-da. My brother says he doesn't know, and he didn't. My sister says she doesn't know, and she didn't. And folks, I had no clue. But remember, my parents made one fatal flaw. They always bought in themes, okay? Some years it was clothes, then it was technology and all that stuff. Well, it had been a while since we had had jewelry. So, we open up the gifts, you win, you're so good, you're smart, and all that good stuff. And then finally I say, Mom, come here. I said, let me give you a hug. You finally won, and she's just literally giddy, and it was gross. And I said, Mom, I want you to do me a favor. And I said, she goes, what? And I said, reach in this pocket right here. And she goes, why? I said, reach in the pocket and pull out the piece of paper. She reaches in the pocket, pull out the piece of paper, and this next picture. And it said, thank you for the Seiko watch. And she looks at me and she goes, how did you know? And I said, hey, you have to be better than that. Now, folks, I had no idea. In this pocket, it said, thanks for the Fossil watch. In this one, it said, thanks for the Omega watch. All the brands back then. And so it took me about 5 years to admit to my parents that I actually never really knew. And remember, there's kids like me in our schools. So, I want to introduce you to 3 girls. These are my 3 girls. Riley in the middle. She has started college this week. I've texted her every day to make sure she's out of bed. She says she is, but there's really no way of knowing. And then, to your left, that is Breck, and to your right, that is Bryn. All 3 girls, folks, I'm telling you right now, do not struggle academically. But they still need teachers that care. They need that smile on your face. They need you to, every day, make sure that they feel like they're the most important. Now, Riley's gone. I got Breck and Bryn, middle school and elementary school. But here's the bad news. Of my 3 girls, 2 of them are extremely sweet. One of them is like their father. I feel sorry for the teachers at Vile because Bryn is coming your way. Okay? And I tell you that story to tell you this. We have to love our kids every day. We have to care for them. You never know what's going on at their house. all right? I also wanted you to get a little taste of what it was like to grow up where I grew up, and just understand one of the best things about being here is about learning about all the different family type things that you have going, and hopefully at some point I will have been here long enough that you will have considered me family too. Thank you.